Hello and welcome to TheAIbumMan, and today I'm going to be doing CDs and vinyl I bought, well, not so recently at this point, for September 2014. So, only a couple of vinyl, a lot of CD, some from, if you followed my last couple of CDs of vinyl bought recently, a couple of these pound CDs from a car boot, quite a few of those actually, a few CDs I got for my birthday, and as I said, a couple of vinyl. So we'll start with the vinyl really, because they were just £1 each. They're nothing too exciting, but you know, I still think they're kind of cool. So the first one, this was one I bought, well, I kind of like the band. I'm not a big fan of the band, but I just really like the album cover. Uriah Heep's Look at Yourself. I just thought that was just such a cool LP cover to have a mirror on it. I literally bought it on the basis of that. I think that's a good reason to buy a vinyl, honestly. I mean, as I said, it was £1, so, you know, if I hate it, it doesn't really matter. And then this was a pretty cool one, though there's a reason it was only £1. So who buy numbers on vinyl? Yeah, but someone's actually done the dot to dot. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's only in pencil, so I can probably just rub it out. I don't know why I haven't done that already, to be honest. But yeah, then it's a very nice condition otherwise. Who buy numbers? Now this album doesn't really have any particularly like classic Who songs. I think Squeezebox, Slip Kid, they're good tracks, but this is not one of the Who's best albums, but it's still a solid 60s Who album, and certainly getting closer to having a complete Who discography, which would be kind of cool. So yeah, before we get to some of the car boot stuff, actually something I meant to show in August, but I just completely forgot. But I did of course buy Opus' new album, Pale Communion, and I pre-ordered the signed version, which came with a signed booklet, which is freaking awesome. I absolutely love that, I have that on display in my room. And yeah, Opus' new album, I'm going to be reviewing it as my next review of a new release, certainly, so I'm not going to say anything about it at this moment, but all I will say is whether it's positive or negative, and it's going to be positive. Okay, so a couple of car boot fans before we get to the really £1 ones. So I thought these were kind of cool. Misfits American Psycho. This was a few quid, but I don't come across Misfits that often, and I've been really wanting to get into them. I mean, looking at them, they're weird looking guys if you don't know them. Very, very weird looking guys. And I've heard this is meant to be one of their more classic albums, and I really don't know much about them. This is the first Misfits album I've ever heard in my life, but I kind of enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good, kind of punky, kind of metal. Yeah, pretty cool. I need to give it a bit more listen before really, deciding. Eric Johnson, and this has been an artist I've been meaning to pick something up of for a long time, because Cliffs of Dover is just, that's in my top 100 songs ever, definitely. It's a fantastic instrumental rock song. If you've ever played Guitar Hero 3, like I certainly did back in the day, then you'll know Eric Johnson, Cliffs of Dover very, very well. It's such an iconic guitar part. So I saw this album quite cheap, Venus Isle, and I discovered he actually sings. I had no clue. I assumed he was just an instrumental artist. So I was pleasantly surprised that there are vocals in this. I mean, there's some instrumental tracks. And all I'd say about this, I mean, it's not an album that is going to blow my mind or into my top 100 albums list, but it's a nice album to chill to. It's like some of Clapton's albums, like, you know, like even some of his classic ones, like Slow Hand, for example. It's a good album, got some fantastic songs on it, but in general it's just an album to chill to. To me, it's not one of the great albums, and this is a bit like that. It's just a nice chill to album. Okay, so into the stuff I found for £1 each, and some absolutely fantastic stuff here. One of the best things, by far, to find this for £1. Freaking Devin Townsend projects, Addicted, £1. You never see Devin Townsend, barely ever, round here in England, and let alone this cheap. I mean, Devin Townsend is just so expensive. Like on Amazon, this album is nearly a tenner. Most of his albums are about a tenner, which is why I only have this and Ziltoid, which is annoying because I really like Devin Townsend and want to collect a lot of his discography because he seems to have a very interesting discography. And yeah, this was different to what I expected. I didn't really know he had a female singer with him, which is pretty cool. I really like the dynamic though, it works well. I mean, he's got a good voice himself. The dynamic works very well. And this definitely seems a bit of a softer album to me than some of the stuff I've heard otherwise of Devin. So I thought this was quite an interesting change and a pretty cool album. Stuff falling on the floor, never a good sign. Right, just move something for 1 second. Right, okay, sign that. Okay, well, that was bizarre. I seem to have a bit of a camera malfunction there. Right, so the next one is, this is not so good a one, but folk word I couldn't resist. Slayer's Diabolus in Musica. This came out, what, 98, did it? Huh, I thought it was actually a bit later than that. Whatever, this is still 90s period Slayer. And if you're a Slayer fan, you're in a 90s period Slayer one. Okay, mid to late 90s period Slayer and 2000s Slayer kind of sucks. I mean, it really does. I don't like this album. I don't like most Slayer from this period, but it's cheap. I like to explore Slayer's catalogue when I get the chance. But I still need Show No Mercy. That's a Slayer album I really want to get, because I just don't know that album at all. Right, a couple of At The Gates albums. Can't resist these for cheap. Really been getting into At The Gates, some good melodic death metal. This album and my absolute favourite by them, Slaughter of the Soul. Definitely one of my favourite death metal albums outside of Opeth. Fantastic album, really. Some of my favourite songs from this definitely Cold, Under a Serpent Sky, World of Lies. It's just a really fantastic, I'm Blinded by Fear, the first track, just a really strong death metal album with a lot of melody to it, which kind of surprises me how death metal could be so melodic. But At The Gates managed to. Definitely looking forward to the new album, and I'm most likely going to be reviewing it. I don't review much death metal. I feel it's not a genre I'm the best at reviewing, because I don't have quite enough of a knowledge of the history and the classic defining albums of it as I do of other genres. But still, I think I might give At The Gates album, try and review it if I think I can. So yeah, those two are pretty cool. A classic album that it's about time I had. Tours Lateralis. This cover, well, this is often good. The only Tour album I knew before this was Enema, and I kind of like some songs on it, but not very many, and I thought it's a bit of a patchy album. There's some bits I like, a lot I don't. It's okay, I listen to it the odd time, from time to time, it's alright. This album though, this is the Tool album I wanted from Tool after hearing Enema. It's like, I knew they had capability for a really good album, and this is it. Lateralis is, as far as I'm concerned, so far only hearing 2 Tool albums, this is their really good album. This has some fantastic songs, Schism, Parabola, Lateralis I really like. It's just got some fantastic tracks on it. The Grudge as well. The Grudge is just a wonderful, wonderful opening. It does have some weaker things. Ticks and Leeches I remember not particularly liking. And it's not going to become one of my favourite albums. I know there's a few reviewers out there who really consider this just one of the pinnacles of music, and I wouldn't go that far personally, but I can definitely appreciate this album for what it is, and definitely an enjoyable listen, no doubt about that. Definitely something I'd recommend to people. So, a few more from the same band. Here we have quite a few albums from My Dying Bride. So, let's see, like Gods of the Sun, For Lies Isaiah, The Dreadful Hours, and A Line of Deathless Kings. For £1 each, I was not going to resist. I've been really getting into My Dying Bride at the moment. This type of gothic metal is definitely something that appeals to my taste quite a lot. Love Paradise Lost, LA Anathema as well, some of my absolute favourite gothic metal bands. And it's just, I think it's a pretty cool genre. Definitely like a lot of what My Dying Bride are doing. I think I have like 5 or 6 of their albums now. It's quite a lot. And I haven't listened to all of them. I've listened to a few. Just need to get through them, really. An album I wouldn't have paid much more than £1 for, but I've been wanting to hear. Vapour Betrayals. A lot of Rush fans don't seem to like Vapour Betrayals so much, particularly the mixing, and that's why they released the new version, was it earlier this year, last year, which was completely remixed and everything, because the production is kind of bad on it. It's not a very well produced album. It's not a very good Rush album. I need to listen to it more, but so far my initial impressions are that it's nowhere as good as the classic 70s stuff. It's not even as good as the good bits of their 80s stuff, like Grace Under Pressure, for example. And it's certainly nowhere near Snakes and Arrows and Clockwork Angels. It's just it's definitely the weaker end of Rush's catalogue for me. I don't have any Venom, so I thought I'd pick up Resurrection. I haven't got around to it yet. I know it's not black metal. Black metal's the album I really want to pick up, and that's the classic one, but I'll give Venom a go. See if this is any good. Tell me if you think this is a good Venom album. Maybe it's not. I have no clue whatsoever. Now this is a fantastic album. Dillinger Escape Plan's Option Paralysis. Oh, I just love Dillinger so much at the moment. Ever since discovering, what the hell's it called? One of Us is the Killer, which has definitely become one of my favourite albums of 2013. Damn, I wish that was on my top 50 end of year list. I wish I discovered that album before then. Bit of a shame, but oh well, can't be helped. Definitely will be in my top 5 of last year, if not 1 or 2, to be honest. Wonderful, wonderful album. And this, I believe, is the album before it, and this is pretty damn good as well. This is, I slightly prefer One Visit the Killer, but this is fantastic as well. Their weird combination of progressive sort of mathcore, just the weirdest rhythms and whatever, mixed with clean vocals and growl vocals. It's just really aggressive. I just love the use of dynamics, and that's what Dillinger have just done so well, so well. So yeah, definitely need to pick more of them up. Okay, so I get into a few of the cool things I got for my birthday. So, Royal Blood. I've already reviewed this album. Check out my review on my channel if you want to know my thoughts on Royal Blood. But if you don't know who they are, in summary, they are a two-piece from Britain, which is always cool. Sort of garage rock, but with a twist. Instead of like White Stripes, guitarist, drummer, you have bassist, drummer. And it's really cool. If you like Queens of the Stone Age, White Stripes, Black Keys, and you like the idea of those bands but just with really heavy bass, but it works. It sounds weird and furious bass, but it's become massively popular in the UK. Anyone from the UK will have heard of this album if they're a rock fan. It's charted at #1 on the UK just overall album charts. So they've become a massive, well not massive, but they've become a pretty big and known band in the UK. So I'm sure UK people know, but I don't know how big they are in the US. I don't know if they really transferred over there as of yet. But fantastic. If you want to know what songs to check out, I definitely recommend checking out Come On Over, Figure It Out, or Little Monster. Check out my full review for my full thoughts on the album. Of course, I had to... Oh, stop falling again. Had to get Solstafaire's Otter. And this is the Epic Deluxe version. I think it was quite limited as well. And this album, again, I've reviewed this. Check out my review for my full thoughts. But in summary, this is my album of 2014. I gave this a perfect 10. I rarely give albums perfect 10s, okay? Rarely. The last new release I gave a perfect 10 was Anathema's Weather Systems. And before that, Rush's Clockwork Angels. So not really since 2012 have I given an album a 10. And this is so deserving. This is just, even though it's all sung in Icelandic, but that's a warning. If you don't like bands that don't sing in English, you might not like this, but you'd just be stupid to miss this band out just because they don't sing in English, because it really doesn't matter at all, because just the creation of atmosphere, if you like bands like Anathema, like mentioning Anathema, it seems, Sigur Rós, that's cliche just because they're both Icelandic, but these are post-rock nowadays. They used to be, if you like bands like Alcest as well, I definitely recommend these. Those type of atmospheric bands that go into big crescendos and just take you on like emotional journeys, then this is one of the best albums of that type ever released. It's become one of my favourite albums just of all time. It's in my top 30 I think now. So yeah, breathtaking release, and I recommend to every single person watching this, check it out. A really interesting album got Gazpacho's Demon. This was one that had really flown onto my radar in 2014. I kind of heard of it, but I'd never listened to anything from it, and that was a mistake. That was a mistake. I'm definitely going to be reviewing this. This has to be reviewed on my channel, because this is a really good progressive album. In fact, this is one of the best progressive rock albums of the year. It's truly progressive, not like this 70s revival stuff. And that's no skit. I like a lot of 70s revival bands like Beardfish, Riverside, and Haken. many others, and they're really good bands, but this is really progressive music. This takes it in just music in new directions. They have a very unique sound, a very unique album. The vocalist sounds a little bit like sort of Tom York, and I don't even know how to describe the rest of it yet, so I'll do a more detailed review on it. But if you like prog and sort of eclectic music, this is a cool one. Another 2014 release that I hadn't checked out yet was Going Back Home by Wilco Johnson and Roger Daltrey. Of course, Roger Daltrey of The Who, and if you didn't know that, then you really should be quite disappointed with yourself. And Wilco Johnson, the former Dr. Feelgood guitarist, who recently came to prominence over the last year for suffering from terminal cancer. But he seems to have had an operation on that and seems to be recovering quite well, which is pretty good considering he originally refused treatment and was told he had like 6 months to live. So that's epic, and hopefully they'll make a sequel to this, because this is a good album. It doesn't contain any new songs. It contains basically pretty much 10 songs written by either Dr. Feelgood or Wilco, and also a cover of the Dylan song Can You Please Call Out Your Window, which is cool. My favourite is definitely the last track on here, All Through the City. That's one of my favourite Dr. Feelgood songs. But yeah, I definitely enjoy this album. It's quite a nighttime album, something just to relax to. It's not breathtaking, it's not one of my absolute favourite releases of 2014, but I'd say it make my top 50. It's an album I definitely have been enjoying listening to so far. I know I didn't own this. I mean, need I really say more about this album than just why did it take me so long to get this? I'm a massive Dylan fan. Dylan's one of my favourite artists of all time. I've seen him live, and yet I didn't own Freewheeling, which is odd considering I would say Freewheeling is probably one of the single most important albums in, well, the history of the album, to be honest. 1963, as far as I'm concerned, this is the first true album. I can't think of a proper album that was strong end to end before 1963 other than this, because it was focused on singles. You look at 50s, you look at the classic artists of the 50s, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Elvis, focused around singles. They didn't really have any classic albums. You never really see a Chuck Berry or Little Richard album in a classic albums list. You see some of their songs in classic songs list. To me, this album sparked the revolution of the album, and this is just such a monumental release. It's so amazing. I'm going to have to review it one day. Honestly, I want to do a Bob Dylan discography one day. God damn, that would be an undertaking, considering how long it's taken me just to review the Beatles discography, let alone Dylan, who's been making albums from 63 till 2012. Yeah, not likely soon, but maybe in the future. So I'm going to Damnation Festival soon, which I'm looking forward to, so a couple of albums from the bands I'll be seeing there. Orange Goblin, really looking forward to seeing them, and Solstice, I'm seeing Damnation. They're obviously the ones I'm most excited for, to see songs from Otter. So excited for that. But Orange Goblin, probably my second most anticipated. They're kind of doom metal, and I like my doom metal, I do. And these are really interesting doom metal. It's not like, let's play the same riff for 40 minutes, or let's take an hour to go through one chord progression doom metal, like some underground doom metal I've heard. Now this is like catchier, faster doom metal, which sounds a bit odd because doom metal tends to be slow, but yeah, it's catchier doom metal really. It's cool. Another classic doom release, Saint Vitus's Born Too Late. This really is one of the seminal doom metal albums, I'd say, and fantastic. They're going to be playing this album in its entirety, so definitely so excited to be seeing this in its entirety. So Captain Beefheart's Safe as Milk. Captain Beefheart, like Zappa, is an artist I've been wanting to get into, but just haven't yet. Like Zappa, I still don't own any Zappa, which is annoying, because what I've heard of Zappa, I like Zappa, and I think I could really get into Zappa. But his albums are quite expensive. You never really see cheap or bargain Zappa, which is unfortunate, but one day I will get into Zappa, I'm sure. But Captain Beefheart's Safe as Milk, I've heard this is one of the best places to start Captain Beefheart, because as much as Trout Mask Replicas is classic, most people tend to say start with Safe as Milk, because, well, it's safe as milk. It's a bit safer, a little bit more commercial, a little bit easier to digest than some of his more experimental, weird and wonderful stuff. And I've definitely been enjoying this so far. I want to delve more into his catalogue. And lastly, but certainly by no means least, The Who's Quadrophenia. Can't have too much Who, and again, getting closer to having a 4 Who discography. And I'd never had Quadrophenia before, literally, I've never heard Quadrophenia before, weird as that sounds, considering it's one of the classic concept albums, and I've talked many times before about how much I adore concept records, and how much I like The Who as well. So yeah, a bit bizarre I haven't heard this yet, and I just need to listen to it. That's the awful thing, I still haven't got around to listen to it. I will. It's just one of those, because it's a double album, it's long, I just want to dedicate it, just listen to it in one, and finding time to listen to this album just in one without any interruptions is not the easiest. So definitely going to be listening to this, especially because I have a ticket to see The Who later this year on their Who Hits 50 tour, which I'm very, very excited for. That will be epic, and hopefully they'll play a couple of songs from this, even though I know their last tour was Quadrophenia, playing it in its entirety. So yeah, that is everything. I know a lot, and now they've all fallen on the floor, so that's wonderful. Yeah, this has been TheAIbumMan. Thanks for watching, comment, subscribe, as usual. Long live rock and roll.